Hey, cool kids. It's one half of the cool kids lunch table here. It's PJ going for a walk today. In a couple of months I'll be in San Diego Comic-Con, but I am not in what you would call comic book convention shape. So with that in mind, I am starting to walk every morning to get ready to walk around that San Diego Convention Center. Been spending too much time around that lunch table lately and packing on a few in the midsection, so I'm just trying to get rid of that. So I thought it would be a good idea if I do a little walk and talk series for the YouTube. And what I'm going to do is on each walk here, since this is in preparation of Comic-Con, I'm going to give a little comic book story. Just, maybe my favorite comic book of the week, one of my favorite comic books of all time, just something like that. Keep the walks moving, keep them entertaining, keep me motivated to keep going. So for today, since it's episode 1, I thought maybe I would just talk a little bit about how I got into reading comic books. So I'm currently walking around my neighborhood, and what I'm going to try and do is take a route that will pass us by where the first store I ever bought a comic book used to be. And then when I get there, I'll take a picture of it. It's not a comic book store or anything. It used to be a stationery store called Rams. Now it's like a Dunkin' Donuts, but when I get there, I will take a quick picture of it for everybody. But yeah, so basically, I started getting into comic books because my dad had to go to the stationery store one day, and I went with him, and they had a rack of comic books, and I was drawn in by the superheroes, the colors, the powers, the whole thing, and I was hooked. And the first superhero I ever really got hooked into was Superman. So he's my favorite. He's been my favorite since I'm like 4 or 5 years old, probably. So like I said, when we get there, I will to where Rams used to be. I'll take a picture of it, but we're not quite there yet. Sorry for the huffing and puffing here. It's like I said, I've been around that lunch table for too long, so I'm kind of out of shape here. Maybe I'll turn the camera around. You get a look at the neighborhood real quick. Beautiful sunny downtown Levittown. So yeah, that's how I got started with comic books. Is I went to that stationery store, and from there we found several other stores that sold comic books. After I started shopping at Rams, I found a small little coin and collectible store called Times Square Stores. I think it was called Stamps and Coins, if I remember correctly. It was actually in a hardware store, Pergamons. It leased out some space, and that was where I bought comic books also. After Rams, from there, I found an actual comic book store on Hempstead Turnpike called Heroes World. Heroes World is actually a distributor of comic books, but they had a couple of stores also, some brick and mortars, which was more common back in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. People wanted to have stores, not like it is now. Everything is online. So then I started buying comic books there for a long time, and then from there I found the store called Amok Time, and I bought all my comic books there for years, up until about last year when the store closed down. Now I just buy my comic books digitally. So that's the short story of how I was collecting comic books. I'm still reading them weekly, like I said, just digital now. Sorry for the huffing and puffing. I'm just really out of shape. We're trying to fix that so I can walk around that comic book convention. It's just a few months away. July 19th, I think, is day 1. So we're running out of time to get into some cardio shape. So I figured, since it's my first walk and talk, comic walk. I don't know what I'm going to call these yet. They're going to be on the YouTube. In addition to saying how I started reading comic books, I would talk about the first comic book I remember owning and buying. Excuse me. And that would be Superman number 82 from the year 1993. I think it was released in October of 1993. And it is probably the official ending of the Death, Reign, Return of Superman storyline. But it is my first memory of buying a comic book is that book. I bought the foil edition. Looked like a green microchip background and foil. And then it had Hank Henshaw, the cyborg Superman's face. And leaping out of that was the returning Clark Kent Superman with his long hair look. Yeah, and that was the first book I remember reading that really prompted me to keep this hobby going. And it's been something I've been doing ever since. Is reading comic books. Specifically, Superman is my favorite, but I do on a weekly basis buy every new DC comic book release. 90% of the new Marvel releases weekly. And some independents, some other not so big publishers. I read the Power Ranger comics from Boom. Boom Comics puts out a hell of a Power Rangers line. It's really fun. So I like to read those. Just a couple other books. Pick up some Ninja Turtle books here and there. It's pretty much everything, you know. I really like comic books. So that's, like I said, this is really going to be the plot of these walks here is just me walking around, telling about some of my favorite comic books while I get ready for San Diego Comic-Con. It is my first San Diego Comic-Con. I've never actually been before. I've been to pretty much every New York Comic-Con in the Javits Center. And even before that, I used to go to Big Apple Con. That was in, I forget the name of the hotel, but right across the street from Penn Station. I used to go to that convention. So bigger cons are not strange to me or new to me, but I've never been to San Diego. It's kind of like the mecca for comic nerds and comic geeks. So I'm glad I'm getting a chance to go this year. This might be like a once in a lifetime for me. So I'm really stoked about it. Probably going to spend a ton of money on Artist Alley. Maybe some con exclusives. You know, all the good stuff that you can get there. Maybe some Funko Pops. If I can get into a Funko booth. Been reading up on how to get Hall H wristbands. Sounds like a real pain in the ass to do that. So I may not do any Hall H panels, which is a bummer because that's where the really cool panels are. But I don't want to miss out on the rest of the show. This is the only year I'm going to be there. So I may have to forego any of the big like MCU panels or DCU panels just to make sure I can see the rest of the floor, what's going on there. I want to spend some time in the San Diego area also. Never been to California, never been to San Diego, so it'll be cool to get a look at that. Maybe try and head to the zoo. So I think that'll be a good time, but again, it's just a lot of walking around and my cardio sucks right now. So I'm thinking maybe once or twice a week I'll post these videos up. Probably walk every day, but I won't have a video every day. So that's the plan. And if people like the videos and just kind of hearing about my comic book adventures, I'll keep doing it, you know. That's the plan. We're getting close to where Rams used to be. I just gotta look both ways before I cross the street. And we'll be getting closer. And that'll be the end of video number 1 is when I get there. It's not a stationary store anymore. For all you kids out there who don't know what a stationary store is, used to sell things like greeting cards and just paper products, lotto tickets, comic books, maybe some candy. People don't buy that stuff anymore quite the same way. Everything is all digital, which there's no reason for it. But that's what Rams was. It's an old school stationery store. And maybe it was Brahms. Could have been the guy's name was Ram. I don't know. I always called it Rams, but either way, we're just a few feet away from that store. So as I get there, I'll flip the camera around, take a quick picture of it as we walk by, and then that'll be the end of our first walk. And try and keep the videos, 15-20 minutes, nothing too long. My walk will be longer than that, but by the time I get to 15-20 minutes, I'm gonna be huffing and puffing so badly it's gonna be real hard to listen to these. So I think that's gonna be the limit on the length of time of the video. We're heading down the creepy alley here that leads right to where the shopping center is, and then that'll be it. So before I get there, I just want to thank you all for taking a walk with me this morning. Like I said, I don't know what I'm going to call these walks yet. I'm thinking comic walks, comic book walk and talk. I don't know, something like that. We'll figure it out. And it'll be exclusively on the YouTube channel. And then, if you like these walks, check out the podcast. Check out our Instagram, Cool Kids Lunch Table. The website, coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com. And here we go, rounding the corner in front of where the store used to be. And I'm going to turn the camera around. Yeah, see? So, Dunkin' Donuts now, and there's a storefront right next door to the Dunkin' Donuts. And this is right around roughly where it used to be. Right here was where I bought probably my very first comic book, right here. And that's it. So thank you for walking with me. Thank you for talking with me. Next walk and talk, I think I'll talk about my absolute favorite Superman comic book, Superman for All Seasons. Today I just wanted to talk about how I got into the hobby and the first book I remember reading. Then we'll start talking about my favorites of all time. Maybe we'll even start doing some books of the week from new releases, my favorite book of the week or things like that. So thanks for walking. I'll see you next time. It's Monday. Have a great rest of your week. Adios.